Sometimes being in the spotlight isn't all that it seems, as many wealthy celebrities have confessed how unhappy they are even though their stardom has left them with a fortune. In today's video, I'm going to be asking the question, can money really buy you happiness? And we're going to check out another list of the top 10 celebrities who are rich but not happy. I'm your host for this one, Joss Bedard. Thanks for checking us out or coming back. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Do all the things to keep hanging out with us. Taking the very first spot on this list, number 10, is the famous supermodel Kendall Jenner. With her whole life being in the spotlight and her family having their own reality TV show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians, when she was growing up, there was a constant pressure on her, she said. A few years ago, the model shared her experience with anxiety and how she has experienced it since she was a very young girl. In an interview with Vogue, Kendall confessed that work culture and the consistent presence of paparazzi has set her anxiety out of control in recent years. Additionally, she acknowledges the privilege that she holds for the lifestyle she has and the fortune that she was born into. Though despite her privileges, she still has everyday and real life struggles that all humans do. Kendall ended one interview by saying, I quote, "No matter what someone has or doesn't have, it doesn't mean they don't have real life feelings." She was trying to make it clear right off the bat that no matter how much money you have, you still cannot buy happiness. Swiftly moving forward to the next spot at number 9 is Katy Perry. The musician has had many hits throughout her career and topped Billboard 100 in the US. With all the success and money that comes with doing what you love, how could this make Katy so unhappy, we might wonder. Well, the artist felt the constant pressure to always be number one all the time and to constantly have her name in the media. But with a couple song releases that weren't as successful as her past hits, Katy fell into a serious depression, leaving her to struggle even more internally. The pressure that came with being a celebrity in Hollywood tore Katy apart and her mental health suffered greatly, she said. Good news is, after acknowledging her mental health struggle, she's been focusing more on herself, her husband Orlando Bloom, and their baby, which has led her now to consistent happiness, and she's now making more music. So it's just wins all around. Moving up the rankings, taking the 8th spot is the Australian singer and actress Natalie Imbruglia. I hope that's right. With her life in the spotlight, Natalie has always been known to find great success in the industry, be extremely wealthy, but also very unhappy. This is because after Natalie's hit song Torn was released and well received, the celebrity fell off the face of the earth and wasn't seen for a while. The singer sold 7 million copies and is one of the highest selling debut albums by a pop and alternative female artist, so why did Natalie run from this newfound fame? Well, Natalie would later confess that it was due to the fact that making a great amount of money and this newfound fame made her feel extremely isolated. She also made it known that the money she gained from the stardom gave her no real comfort because it led unwanted people into her life. I can only imagine how many people start crawling at you when you start getting fame and money. Moving up the charts, taking the number 7 spot is Robert Pattinson. Most actors try and cover up the roles they don't particularly like, but not him. The actor who starred in the very well-known Twilight franchise made it apparent how much he hated starring in that role. While filming, Pattinson's agents were so deeply concerned that he was going to get himself fired for his blatant honesty and careless antics on the film series. They were so worried that they tried their hardest to kind of like sort him out so that he could remain in the series. It had gotten to a point that Robert was so miserable for taking on the prominent role in the Twilight franchise that he had to stop just mentally processing that film and talking about it in interviews. Therefore, even though the Twilight movie series paved the way for his entire acting career, he was the most unhappy he could be during a time where his career was at the highest it has ever been and he was making a fortune for himself. He has since found other opportunities, starring in a range of films, especially focusing on indie films, while also becoming the new Batman. That being said, his unhappy past while starring in the Twilight films will probably always haunt him, because obviously everyone just loves him from that movie. Taking the number 6 spot is the American actor and musician Corey Feldman. In his prime in the 80s, Corey was one of the top actors of all time. This was met with him making a great amount of money and partying with some of the biggest celebrities. But behind all of that, the actor described having a great amount of money to bring a lot of evil in his life. Corey would confess that when he was a young actor, he saw a great amount of wrong things happen behind the spotlight, and he personally was also taken advantage of. The fame and fortune he received by being one of the greatest actors of his time was met with the shocking and disturbing things that happened off camera in Hollywood in the 80s. Which is why, as he got older and left the spotlight, Feldman confessed that he was living a more humble lifestyle and wasn't as well off as he used to be, though actually enjoys living this happier and more simple lifestyle. We've made it to the halfway point. At number 5, we have Dave Chappelle. The comedian had a very well received comedy sketch show. His show tackled heavy topics, but in the classic Chappelle signature comedic style. One would think a comedian that would make it in the industry would be ecstatic, especially since his comedy show was a hit with audiences. Everyone loved the show to a point where the network actually offered Dave $50 million to continue the show. However, he declined the offer. Despite the success of the show, Dave was struggling internally with the concept of his show and the message that it led across. He inevitably didn't want his message to be skewed and taken the wrong way, therefore he walked away from the show and the spotlight altogether. He also confessed that the fame was not the scary part that led him to leave the spotlight, but his lack of control over his fame scared him. And when it came down to it, even with a $50 million offer on the table, Chappelle chose himself and his own well-being over fame and a great amount of money. However, this decision has led to an even bigger controversy growing on right now between him and Netflix. You'll probably see it online right now. Articles are everywhere. He's boycotting them. Moving up the charts at number 4 is Kristen Bell. The American actress has been in a wide range of well-known films and TV shows such as Frozen, Gossip Girl, and Bad Moms. The A-list celebrity has made a name for herself in Hollywood, though her fame and fortune isn't all that it seems. In an interview with YouTube, the celebrity confessed her long and serious battle with depression and anxiety. She comes from a family with a history of serotonin imbalance, so it wasn't anything new for the star to grow up with. Even with the stigma against mental health, Kristen has no remorse speaking up about her battle with her own mental health, and even admitted to taking medication for her issues. Even with her being an A-list celebrity and having a great amount of wealth, Kristen continues to struggle with her mental health to this day. She has since become an activist on the matter and an advocate for mental health transparency. Taking one of the top spots on the countdown at number 3 is Ashley Judd. The well-known actress has appeared in People's Magazine's list of the top 50 most beautiful people in the world, but she still struggles with her own mental health and self-doubt. Ashley has had a great and successful career, but quickly learned that all the fame and money that came with her celebrity status just meant nothing for her happiness. Ashley's life behind the screen was met with great conflict and struggle, with having to endure abuse from her family, assault, and just being mistreated in Hollywood, and of course a highly documented terrible divorce. The actress knew if she could not control her mental stability and the issues going on in her life, the career she built for herself and the fortune that she gained was not worth her inner struggle. After being treated in rehab for emotional difficulties and mental health, Ashley emerged as a different person. Now she knows that she doesn't find happiness in the spotlight and making a great amount of money, so she focuses on her charity work and activism for mental health. Taking the second spot on this list is Harrison Ford. You probably know him as his iconic character in the Star Wars films, but he has been in a great number of hit movies and of course is one of the highest and most paid actors in Hollywood. But all this stardom and money is not the life that Harrison wants to live. In a 2010 interview, Harrison stated that the cost of fame well overtook the positives and fortune from it. He admitted that the negatives that came with fame was unanticipated for him and that he never enjoyed it. From the lack of privacy to not being able to go out in public in peace, and the money was just not worth having because he struggled to live a normal life every day that he very much desired. He knows how fortunate he is to have had the opportunities in the industry that he has had, but he didn't become an actor to become rich and famous, he says. He became an actor because he simply enjoyed acting. Because of his hatred for fame, the person who once loved acting and being in films is left with a grumpy man who just wants to live a normal life. Topping the chart by taking the number 1 spot is Evan Peters. He is wildly praised for his acting ability, especially his disturbing and frightening performance in each of his roles in American Horror Story. But after starring in many seasons, he knew he needed a break from the disturbing show, as he said it was taking a toll on his mental health. As Evan explained it, he doesn't like having to tap into his darker side to perform disturbing scenes because that's just not the type of person he is. The actor has also mentioned that having to act as angry and dark as he needs to for the demanding show has really hurt him as a person and is changing him for the worse. For those reasons, Evan knew he needed to take a step back from his sought-out role in the series and stayed away from the horror genre of acting for 2 years after his final performance in the 8th season of the TV show. Fans hoped that this time spent away from the show would let him recover and heal from the trauma that it brought him. Alright guys, that's our part 2 list. Before I head out, I'm gonna do some comment shoutouts. Tika says Lady Gaga is the boss. That is a fact. I will not argue that. Nicole Lloyd says, love your content and the way you host. Some of these I had no idea about, so informative. X. I always forget if X means hug or kiss, but sending it back to you, and thank you. I try to be as informative as possible. Lori Alongi says, money doesn't make you happy, but it definitely makes life easier to live. Also a fact. Also a fact. Money, yes, money cannot buy you happiness, but in some cases it can make you happy because it makes paying the bills a lot easier. Alright guys, that's all I got. I'm out of here. I was your host Joss. See you next time. Bye.